All right, it was good to see your lesson last week, John. We got to see it all worked out. Laura and I went to New York to be at Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding. We left our invitations at home and couldn't get in. So
They're lost.
Yeah, so that's it. So actually, we were in San Antonio visiting Laura's cousin, and her cousin and Mary Carver's sister go to the same church. So
how fun is that?
very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got a copy of Max Poth's, the handout from his funeral yesterday, or service yesterday, and it was great. Let's go through these. Averill on page 2 is written up preparing for worship. Let's see here. We've got, well, Susie from our class is on chancel today. You'll see on page 6. Let's see here. Yeah, this is, you see condolences, of course, from Max, and it's so fortuitous that Sandra texted Max and found out got the whole chain started on that. That's so sad. I got to tell you a funny thing from the funeral yesterday, or from the service yesterday. The Natalie, Max planned the whole thing. The Natalini, Shannon, and Alex were on to talk about Max. And one of the kids, they told a story about when Max used to take them to swimming class or whatever. And one of the kids asked, "What happens if you die? Who's going to bring us home?" And that's been a family joke for 40 years or so. So anyway, one of the little kids asked. All right, drop-in choir is happening on the 19th and the 26th. You see that on page 8. And Darren's 30th is to be marked on August 2nd. His actual 30th was on the 14th of June, which we had some other stuff going on then. So it'll happen then. So. Candy McComb, you'll see on page 9, to be recognized after 8 years in the music and that. You'll see that, a nice write-up on page 9. The Women of Wilshire does dinner or lunch. You'll see that on page 10. The book clubs are on there as well. And Shannon Natalini's sister, Megan, is our I Am Wilshire this week. And you'll see this. This was a picture of her in the nursery and in the kindergarten area here in Wilshire. So that's a good one there. Any other church-wide announcements we need before we turn this over to John?
You got page 9, White Rock Center of Hope. The church will be serving you next Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
9 noon. If you're interested, you'll come and see our neighbors in a mobile drive-through food pantry and get a chance to either take out food to them or help package food. I'm telling you, you'll never be more blessed.
Okay, page 9. That's it. Thank you for that, Randy. Anything else? John, it's all yours until about 10:40. How are you, man?
Worn out.
Uh-oh. Did you move?
Is
Did
this
you get moved?
new house loose?
I'm in the process. I'm still unpacking, but like I go like this morning, I went to the old house, boxed up stuff, loaded up my car, came, unloaded it.
Well, you came here?
Oh, yeah.
Or had a rinse repeat?
When the dogs get you up between 5 and 5:30, you can get lots done.
Oh.
The problem is around 8:45, you're thinking it's nap time.
Yeah.
And some days it is, but not in my current phase. Yeah, just worn out. And why can't we have cool weather in July once? I'm just.
It's supposed to rain today, so it's cool to live.
Yes, I moved to Colorado for that.
Okay, well, I keep seeing forecasts for rain over the last 2 to 3 weeks, and it hasn't happened. It's like last week, they even closed the airport because storms were coming, and I walk out, there's not even a cloud. But yes, it's so hot, it's like I get up and I get out of bed and I'm sweating. Almost.
Yeah, it's not.
Can't leave my dogs out because they start panting really fast. But yeah, I'm happy in the home, but man, there's so much work still left to do.
I hate unpacking the boxes.
In my series of meetings before school start tomorrow, so now I've got to do a whole bunch of school stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, new teacher orientation starts in 2 weeks. So yeah, and I have to do other things. I actually have to get ready for my 4 preps occasionally. Meet with other people. So yeah, it's a different kind of summer. And you know, I'm trying to squeeze in Wimbledon, the Tour de France, the World Cup. You know, gotta have those moments. And for semifinals, we have France playing Spain and England playing Argentina. This is like, oh my gosh.
It'll be
My
good.
head's gonna burst. I hope they're good games, but the French have looked really good so far. All right, well, for those of you who were here last week, did you contemplate spiritual gifts in the last 7 days? Right, because some of you have not done assessments, and some of you hadn't thought about it. There was even a hint, oh, we don't have any, but you know, the point is, yes, we do. And right, if we say no, then we're telling God no. It's not just in there. I realize y'all did a whole series of lists, and you can memorize the list, and that's great that we know stuff. Oh, these are the gifts, right, that are listed. But the point is, what does it mean for us as followers of Christ? And so today, I don't know how I ended up being the transition, but somehow I volunteered for this. Today starts the parables,
Yes.
which are fun, and you've heard of them, right? It's not like today's story is new. Okay, but we need to understand that Jesus was telling parables. Oh, it's not story time. I'll pat you on the head. Learn a little thing today. Jesus told parables really to shock people, to get them out of their complacency. Okay, and I remember several years ago, well, when I was teaching in a different class, because I had taught parables in my class and then I went to a different class, I actually had somebody raise a hand and say, I don't like this parable, can we move on, right? It was a different parable, right? But it was like, right, we get confronted and challenged by the parables, okay? And today's, right, we have heard this story so many times, right? It became a phrase in common English, okay? You know, we even have laws referring to that. We do different things, okay? So, let's get this out there. I mean, some of us have heard this story longer than we can remember, right? We can't remember the first time. Okay. What does the phrase Good Samaritan bring up in your mind?
Well, you know, the Jews, I guess, didn't think there was such a thing. Samaritans were always bad, right? So
Okay,
this was
well,
a good-
right, and right, when we say the Good Samaritan, we're kind of buying into that. Like, this is the one, which is unfortunate. Okay, so Good Samaritan, in contrast to how they were viewed at the time by the people we're reading about that Jesus was with. Okay, what else when we say Good Samaritan?
Kind of the modern context is someone whose eyes are open to see a need and then offer help.
Okay, well, then there are multiple things there. See a need and offer help. Not see, oh God, I'm moving on. Right, wow, I'll press the accelerator. No stopping here. Okay.
Also handle it.
I think it's helping someone that's, they might be unexpected, you might be unexpected for them to help.
Okay, unexpected to help. Let me ask you, have you ever, well, okay, my story's gonna be a breakdown on the highway. Has your car ever broken down and someone stopped to help you? Or someone stopped to help at different times? Did you even think about, oh, is this the right kind of person? What were you paying attention to? Someone's actually helping.
Gratitude.
Yeah, gratitude. Okay, this reminds me, okay, when I was a freshman and sophomore, I lived on campus in Austin, but they didn't let you stay or leave anything in the dorm over the Christmas holidays. Like, they couldn't guarantee it. So I had my entire car packed up. I've just finished finals. It may have been the year that I had 6 finals, including 5 in the first 3 days. So I'm one tired, worn out camper. The car is loaded. I'm driving up 35. And now I know what it sounds like and feels like. I experienced my first blowout of a tire. So I pull over and I change, like we had to change tires. I just used to work at Jack, but my entire trunk is full. So I'm pulling stuff out, trying to find what I need. And some truck driver pulled over and actually got the equipment and changed my tire for me. So here's this young college kid, I have no idea, don't even know what company the guy worked for, can't even really remember what he looked like, right? But stopped and helped, right? Did I have a test? Do you check the right boxes for me? Okay, now, are there some groups, yes, there's a hand up
You
over there.
reminded me of a family story of ours. When Laura was in school at Texas, she was going back home to San Antonio. She was in this little Austin Healy Sprite. She and her friend, they have a flat near the Acapulco of this place establishment on the road. Some guy pulls over, helps them change the flat. Laura backs over his toolbox and drives off. And there's no good deed that goes unpunished. Is that
Oh, my goodness.
All right, so maybe that person will rethink twice.
So when you said truck driver, my first thought is that you didn't think, this is a truck driver who's on a job, got a time schedule, yet he's going out of his way to help me. So what inconvenience is he being put through at my pleasure?
Right, but it was unexpected for me. Okay, because I hadn't really had to deal with this before. It was unexpected that someone's pulling over to stop, because I figure I'm stuck on my own. But yes, somebody who's actually on a job, potentially, right? Yes?
I think I mentioned this, but it's worth mentioning again. I had a cousin who had a flat blow out on LBJ and blew it off to, and before she could even get out of the car, some young man stopped to help change her tire and all that. And he's getting the tire changed, and a car hits him and kills him.
Oh.
So the reason I bring it up, if you got a problem on LBJ, don't even pull off and stop. Drive to an off-ramp, even if you're destroying your car and your tire. Get off LBJ before you stop and get out of the car. It's a very dangerous place.
Okay, and I realize times have changed, because now we just pull out our phones, like AAA, hello, this is where I am, send a professional, right? And so it is different. But we all grew up in a time when that was not possible. Like if something happened to your car, it's like, okay, where is the nearest available phone? And do I have coins? And whatnot. Okay, but are there groups that you would feel, oh, I don't know if I want help? And this could be earlier in your life. I realize we may be different now, yeah?
Well, if they showed up with Nazi flags or something like that on their truck, I might be.
Okay, that might make you feel uncomfortable, but also it has to do with our notion of that. Like, it would be unexpected if that's who you are, but you're stopping to help.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about college. When my daughter was in college, young lady, I told her if she's driving home from Abilene and you have a car problem, get off the road, stay in the car, be careful who stops, because young lady, men just don't know.
Right.
I'm sorry to say that.
Yes, okay, and so we've learned that lesson too. Okay, now see, in my long phase of being single, I'd gotten into the habit where I did stop and help people. I gave people rides, right, whatever they needed, different things. It was usually a ride of some sort. But when I got married, that came to a screeching halt. Number one, because if she was in the car, there's no way I was being allowed to stop. And she made it clear that she was uncomfortable with me ever doing that. Okay, even though I helped, but we know bad things can happen. Okay? But it's like when I was growing up, if your car breaks down, it better not be on the south side of Dallas. Right. Who would we not want to help from? Or maybe it would be, right, you said Nazi. Okay, maybe, I think some Americans would be afraid if a Muslim, right, clearly got out of the car, right? For us.
For bikers, like motorcycles
Okay.
a lot, for years, I think we had that fear, and then we realized a lot of those, you realize you get to grow up, I guess, but realize there are a lot of good guys that have
Yes.
motorcycles. But they're tattooed all over. Well, now everybody's tattooed, so.
Okay, so part of the story is, and you brought it up, the Jews had some ideas about Samaritans. So part of the story is people we would not expect, like people we don't like. okay, here we are in a different kind of Baptist church. Maybe it's a fundamentalist Baptist, and you're like, oh no. Right, but people help, right? Here's somebody who's willing to do that. But we define this as see a need, offer to help. Okay, and there are some principles that go along with that. Okay, now, there's another famous Samaritan in a different gospel that Jesus talks to. Who is that?
Woman at the well.
Woman at the well. Okay, now, keep in mind, we never get names of Samaritans. Okay? Why was that? And that's the Gospel of John. We're going to focus on Luke. But why did John have that story?
It was unusual that he spoke to her at all.
Yes, an unfamiliar woman, he's not supposed to do that, right? Rabbis wouldn't and whatnot. Plus, what is he?
Well,
A Jew. What is she?
Samaritan.
A Samaritan. Okay, and I realize that, some of us, grew up at a time when the South was still largely segregated.
back in that day, Jesus had kind of, I won't say broken the law. Jews would not go through Samaria.
Mhm.
They would go around. But he cut through, and he shouldn't have done that. And not only did he cut through, then he helps this woman.
Now he's talking to one, and not only that, she's a woman.
Yes.
Not only that, he's asking her for help for water.
Well, and he
Okay,
also knows.
now, we're familiar with that story, but the point is, why does the author of John include that in the gospel? This is how shocking the gospel of Jesus is.
Everything about it is scandalous. He is in the wrong place with the wrong people, and she is, not only is she the wrong people, she's so bad, even the wrong people won't deal with her. Everything about that
That's
story
why
is
she's there at
scandalous.
noon.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so what does Jesus do? He turns everything upside down. Your preconceptions, but Jesus basically says, they're nonsense. You're meaningless. And what does she become? Well, in tradition, she went home and told her people, right? And in tradition, I don't know if this is accurate in terms of records, but she actually became an evangelist, right? And actually shared the gospel with more people. I have met Jesus. So that's the point that we get in these gospels, and that's the point of the parables. Jesus, right? It isn't, oh, here's a nice little story. Okay, let's have a picture for, the first graders about the parable. No, Jesus is using the parables to get people to understand the kingdom of heaven, and the kingdom of heaven almost always challenges our conceptions. Okay, that's why it's shocking that a Samaritan does something good. Right? Now, let me ask you this. Because you've pointed out, wow, Jews and Samaritans, they just don't get along, won't have anything to do with each other. Why?
The Samaritans were traitors to the covenant of God. They intermarried with foreigners of all things.
Okay, and that's a problem?
They misinterpreted the orthodoxy of the scripture.
Yeah, we don't have that
They just
problem
did
with
it all.
anybody in our world.
They just did everything wrong. They were traitors,
Okay.
and they weren't to be dealt
Right,
with.
and that's the assumption. We don't like we disagree on something, so everything you do is wrong. This is a problem with humans. Okay, now we'll get to the whole neighbor part, but part of this is the assumption that Samaritans are just wrong is absurd. Just like us. Now, apparently, right, in tradition, when one attack, of course, Israel got run over multiple times by big empires. So Assyria ran over, took a bunch of people, but some people were still there, and they sent foreigners in to repopulate, so they intermarried, had children. So ethnically, they're slightly different. Okay, Samaritans reject the books of the prophets and the wisdom. They only accept the law. Okay, so there are religious differences. And then, when the Israelites came back and started building a temple in Jerusalem, well, the Samaritans had built an alternate temple elsewhere. So they have a competing temple. They have competing sacred texts. Okay, and the thing is, we know as Baptists in the South, what seem like small religious differences to other people can lead to magnified tension. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's who they are, so yeah, they don't get along, you are supposed to avoid.
Well, think about how much kerfuffle there have been over the centuries.
What was that word again?
Yeah, it's
And
an important Hebrew concept, that.
But between Protestants and Catholics, it's been horrendous, what's going on there. And not even in the distant past necessarily. The troubles in Ireland was decades ago, not centuries. And so, yeah.
You need to check the news today.
Well, fair enough, yeah. I guess I shouldn't have even
Okay.
suggested it was over.
So,
Well, and some of that is nationalism and religion is being used, okay, but yes.
I'm sorry. So basically, the Samaritans were Israelites, but they intermarried? Okay.
Well, it
With
depends,
other
right? Yeah, because the
religions.
Assyrians sent people in, so they were foreigners. So they are different, but then again, because of the temple and because of the sacred text issue, it blossomed into other differences. But now they've defined themselves. It's kind of like, okay, I don't know about you, but for much of my life, a fundamentalist Baptist was someone I just couldn't get along with. You just don't see the world. Okay, but what's the point? Can that person still help?
Yes.
Can God still work through people, even when we disagree? So part of it is, I think, Jesus is telling us, hey, your differences aren't as big or as important as you think they are. Okay? Right? Because the Samaritan, why do we call it the Good Samaritan? It's also in comparison to the other people who came by. Okay? And we'll get to that text in a moment. But just to show you that there was some tension with Samaritans. Yes, Dennis?
John, I've always thought about this in mathematical terms as absolute value. You could have a negative number or a positive number, but you do the absolute value, and that's still the good that's there, whether they're a good person or a bad person or whatever, that God still cares.
And see, I just thought absolute value was the distance from zero. Okay. All right. Before we get to this passage, we're going to go to the previous chapter in Luke. So turn to Luke chapter 9, and it's near the end.
10?
10.
Chapter 10.
No, we're going to Luke chapter 9.
Sorry.
What verse?
Okay, let's get to the right chapter. We're close to the end of chapter 9.
A Samaritan village refuses to receive Jesus.
Okay, we're going to start with 51. Okay,
Just 51.
and that's where we're going to start.
And the days drew near for him to be taken up. He set his face to go to Jerusalem.
Okay, so he's ready to go. He's setting out for Jerusalem. Everybody got that? But then, okay, read 52.
And he sent messengers ahead of him. On their way, they entered a village of the Samaritans to make ready for him.
Okay, so they're so close that on the way to Jerusalem, what's in between? Part of Samaria.
Yeah, Samaria.
Okay, as someone, right, who's been living in Garland and working in Dallas, and somehow on my 5-mile trip home, I go through Dallas, Mesquite, and Garland, right? Little pockets shoot up, right? It's not all square, whatever. So I'm setting out for Jerusalem, but Samaria is here, and they're going to a village to prepare for arrival. Okay, somebody read 53.
But they did not receive him because his face was set toward Jerusalem.
Okay, and keep in mind, the Samaritans have a different temple, right, in a city of theirs, and so going to Jerusalem, no, if you're going to Jerusalem, you're not our people, right? We're not going to do anything for you, okay? So, it's right here, the tension between Jews and Samaritans. Okay, now, the fascinating part, somebody read 54.
When his disciples James and John saw it, they said, Lord, do you want us to command fire to come down from heaven and consume them? But he turned and rebuked them. Then they went on to another village.
Okay, so James and John, their names are attached to New Testament documents. They're prominent apostles. the Samaritans are not letting you come to their village, what was their response?
You wanna destroy them?
Yeah, should we call down flames from heaven? Is there some tension?
Yes.
Okay, so when Jesus is talking to a Samaritan, when he tells the story about a Samaritan, this is what his apostles think about Samaritans. Okay, everybody got that? All right.
Well, and in fairness, it's not just Samaritans in general, it's the Samaritans who had the audacity to reject the Messiah. It's a little bit different, but yeah, they might not have done
Well, but
that.
the thing is, they may not know that there was this claim, right? But if he's going to Jerusalem.
Well, but John and James knew. How dare you talk to Jesus that way? I infer that there was that kind of, inner dialogue that they were having.
Yeah, but elsewhere in the New Testament, we have, if the village doesn't accept you and you bring the gospel, just shake the dust off your feet and go.
Right.
Not
Well,
destroy them.
Yeah.
Okay, but the thing is, right, to me, the reason you get this reaction is because there's already this built-in resentment
Sure.
against Samaritans. Oh, it's those people, look what they're doing now. Okay, and maybe that adds to it, okay, but the issue is, right, this is sort of the context of the story, and the author of Luke, right, this is only a few verses before this one. So the apostles are upset, man, those Samaritans are telling us, no, let's burn them up. What does Jesus say? He makes the story where who's the hero?
The woman at the well.
The Samaritan. Okay? All right. So now, let's move in to chapter 10. And go to our regularly scheduled programming. Okay, now, I realize we may have preconceived notions about this too. Here's an expert in the law, and the way we understand it, he's trying to test Jesus, but he actually has some legitimate questions. Like, who is my neighbor? What does it mean to be a neighbor? Like, those are questions we can ask. Who exactly is my neighbor, and what does that mean for me? Like, what do I need to do? Okay, what am I supposed to be doing? Okay, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, yes, other people are trying to trick Jesus into saying something wrong, but Jesus is going to respond. And Jesus doesn't respond with a story, hey, I'm going to affirm just what you're thinking. He responds with a story that leaves people with their heads spinning, like, what? What's going on here? Okay? That's why we still contemplate it. Millennia later. Okay. All right. Could someone read verses 25 and 26?
Just then a lawyer stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he said, what must I do to inherit eternal life? He said to him, what is written in the law? What do you read there?
Okay. So Jesus doesn't give a specific answer. How does Jesus respond to the lawyer's questions?
With a question.
With more questions. It's almost like Socrates. Okay, but Jesus is exploring, well, what do you know? What do you already do? Right? I need to establish that context so then I can talk to you. Okay? Is everybody clear? Right, so, and the thing is, right, I realize we may be competent about this, but at some point as believers, have we asked the question, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? Right, that's been an issue somewhere along the way, right? So it's not an illegitimate question, but here's somebody, all right, Jesus is bringing some new insight, right? So it's legitimate for people to ask questions, just like it's legitimate for us to ask questions. We don't have everything figured out. So asking the question, but then Jesus turns around and said, well, okay, what are you doing? What does the law say about this, right? So then you're asking this question, well, who are you already? And let's go from there, okay? So, Could someone read 27 and 28 to get the next two pieces of this interchange?
He answered, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." And he said to him, "You've given the right answer. Do this and you will live."
Okay, and let me tell you, as a teacher, students live for, oh, that's right. Of course, now it's like high five, you're so smart. You know, let me share with my mom. You got something right. But what is Jesus, right, you're going to, and Jesus says, you got it. Okay, now, did the man list a whole bunch of stuff that he does during the day?
No.
Right, and what's the key word that's in both of them? Both of the two things?
Love.
Love. Okay? So love Lord your God, right, with everything you've got, and love your neighbor as yourself. Okay? And we're getting to that part now, because it's legitimate, well, who's my neighbor? Okay, and you know, I'm the person who just moved. I don't even know any of my neighbors. I have no idea what their names are. I appreciate the one who delivered the package that went to the wrong address a couple of weeks ago. Okay, I thought that was neighborly. Okay, but what does neighbor mean? Okay, and neighbor can change. Who's your neighbor can change by situation. Okay, so the guy says, hey, what do I do for eternal life? And Jesus says, well, what are you doing? What does the law say? It's like, here, love God, love neighbor. And Jesus said, absolutely right, go and do that. Makes it sound simple. Right? It takes a lifetime to explore doing those things, okay? But go and love, right? Do this. That's the correct answer. Man, you got an A in Sunday school. Okay? Move on, do this, and you will live. Okay. But then, verse 29. Someone get that for us.
But wanting to justify himself, he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?"
Okay, but does that make sense?
Sure.
If somebody says, love your neighbor, is it just people in your church? Is it people in your residential community? Right? Is it people in your graduating class? Is it people at work? Okay, is this a legitimate question?
You know, legitimately, I would think, maybe at the most, it's everybody in my neighborhood.
Okay?
It may just be the people on the right, left, and the left, but probably bigger than that. It's probably at least the neighborhood. But it's not beyond that, I wouldn't think.
Okay.
But you know, when I'm praying, I pray for my neighbors near and far, those that I know and haven't met, in my
Right.
daily prayers.
Okay. Okay, but that brings up a point. Okay. Are there people near us that we think, oh, obviously a neighbor, or obviously something I care about?
Yes.
Okay, does Jesus want us to expand our definition of neighbor, potentially?
Yes.
Okay, if you treat these people this way, why don't you treat these people you don't like, that you have stereotypes and preconceptions about, right? Treat them that way, and they may and be ready to be surprised, because they can be good too, okay? As we've seen. Okay, but this seems, what, yes?
Excuse me, like he says in another scripture, I don't know where it's found, but you know, it's easy to love your friends. So
Yes.
it's easy to love your neighbor that you know and you're comfortable with, but it's not easy to love your enemies. So
Yes, and
yeah.
right, again, yeah, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you.
Right.
What? Well, no, wait, you got humanity wrong here.
Yeah. You're asking a
Right.
lot.
But again, Jesus is turning things around. Right? If you read parables and just, okay. Yeah, we're not actually experiencing, right? Jesus wants us to be challenged. Right? Do we know eternal life? Oh yes, I believe. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, Savior, came to die for me and rose again. Well, and Jesus might say, hey, that's correct. But what are you supposed to do? Love God and love neighbor, and love is active. Okay, so then the question becomes neighbor, and the rest of the parable is exploring, well, who gets treated as a neighbor, right? And who is the neighbor who sees a need and steps in, right? So neighbor, right, can we understand that there's two sides of a neighbor relationship? Okay, so we're trying to expand our perspective a little bit. Okay. So now we're finally to the parable, right? Jesus is just having this conversation, but now he's got the key question, well, who is my neighbor? And Jesus, well, let me tell you a story. Okay, to illustrate that. Okay? All right. Can someone now read 30 through 32 to get this first part of the parable?
Jesus replied, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers who stripped him, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Now by chance, a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side."
Okay, let's pause right there. So what has happened?
He's being ignored.
Yeah, okay, well, first off, there's a brutal crime.
Well, yeah. To start.
Okay, this isn't just, I have a flat tire and I'm waiting for somebody to come pick me up. Right? Here is someone who has been stripped and beaten.
Presumably a Jew,
And half dead.
because he was going from Jerusalem to Jericho.
Well, possibly. We don't have that specified. There's a pretty good chance, yes.
Yeah.
Okay? Right, but then, and we don't know why. Okay, it could be I'm late, I don't have time to stop, or it's inconvenient, or oh, I'm not a first responder. This can't be good. Right, there are lots of reasons why. So we have a priest and then a Levite who serves in the temple, right? So we have religious leaders, religious figures. Okay, in our world, by the way, I'm pretty sure that's us. The priest and the Levite, we're those people.
Yes.
Okay, and we could have a Southern Baptist walked by, a Cooperative Baptist walked by, a Methodist walked by, a Catholic priest drove by, or whatever. Okay? A Muslim cleric drove by, right? A Buddhist monk. Okay, it doesn't matter, right? An atheist, whatever, but Jesus uses these two. Okay, who has been commanded, right? What have we just seen in this conversation? Love God and love your neighbor.
As yourself.
What are the religious leaders obviously failing to do? Either one.
Well, they're not
Failing to
treating him
love
as a neighbor. and
Yeah,
saying,
right, they're not treating him as a neighbor, but then therefore they're not actually loving God either,
Right.
I would argue. Okay, do we see the problem?
I wonder if the use of the term half dead is important here, because a priest would say, I can't be near a dead person, that would make me ritually unclean, so I'm gonna walk by on the other side of the street. And so by doing that, you're honoring the letter of the law, but missing the spirit of
Okay.
the law,
But not loving,
but not loving.
right? And I get it. Okay, look, I have to go through CPR training regularly, and the whole time, every 2 years, I go through CPR training thinking, if something can happen to my school, I sincerely hope somebody else is around. But I've actually been in a situation, I was in a graduate class where a professor, we all had to leave the room because somebody was having a seizure. Right, things are happening, but yeah, we just don't want to. It's like, oh, I don't want to stop. Right? Think about America in the 21st century. We really don't want to stop.
No.
Okay?
We're busy, we're busy.
Yeah. With anything important? Okay.
It's
So-
also because we don't know people. There's so many people around, so many more than there were when I was a little kid. And it's just, you just see them, you become inured to it. And I found that people are kind of thoughtless. And they see an old man, that was me, crossing the street over at Castle Linda, and it stopped. And I thought, what are they doing? I think they're not mean necessarily, but they're thoughtless. And I'm the same way, I mean, I should have stopped, yeah, I should have gone around. No.
Okay, but again, that's part of the point of the gospel, and that's part of the point of the parables. Jesus is saying, stop being you.
Yeah.
Be mine. See the world differently. Okay, and the thing is, at least one of them actually cried. It's not just, oh, what is that over there? So what? Oh. No, that looks messy. Not going to do that.
You know, this could bring up a point that maybe we probably shouldn't even consider, because it gives us maybe an out sometimes. But anyway, way back when, you know, God had said, hey, you know, don't intermarry. When you go in and you take over all this land that I'm giving you, don't intermarry, because if you do, then you're going to pick up some of the things they believe, and that's not right, so just don't do it. But they did it, and that's why they were Samaritans.
But that's an Israelite complaint against them. Okay.
Okay, so maybe they had a good reason why they don't stop and help the people, because earlier in life, God had said, man, don't, you know, ignore them, don't marry them, don't do anything. So,
Okay.
maybe they were using that wrongly, but they, you know, it was something.
Yeah, we're humans. We look
Yeah.
for excuses.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we've just covered the tension between Jews and Samaritans with the apostles, right? But who's on stage? It's like, it's time for Dudley Do Right. Okay. Could someone read 33 and 34?
But a Samaritan, while traveling, came near him, and when he saw him, he was moved with pity. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, having poured oil and wine on them. Then he put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him.
Okay. Now, who's doing this? Okay. What? No, nothing good comes from there. Okay. So let me ask you this. Who is showing how to be a neighbor? Which would it be a surprise? Okay, and we talked about some possibilities in our world. Who would surprise us? Who would actually be a good, oh, you're not all bad. Okay, maybe you're doing something, right? And did he expand his definition of neighbor? Here's a stranger. Okay, and if your assumption is correct, here's a Jew that I'm really not supposed to like. But here's someone who needs help. And being aware, like you started over half an hour ago, like seeing it, being aware. Okay? Well then, now that Jesus has told that story, he has a question. Could someone read, oh wait, okay, so 35 is quick. He paid the innkeeper and said, take care of him, and if you need more, I'll do it. Can you imagine that this would be like you and me stopping, picking up somebody, taking them to the hospital, and then taking them to the hotel and paying for the hotel overnight? Do we understand how extensive this assistance is? Okay? But, so he's even paying future expenses. I'll pay more. Okay? Being a neighbor. Can someone now read 36 and 37?
Which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? He said, the one who showed him mercy. Jesus said to him, go and do likewise.
Okay. So Jesus isn't saying, hey, redefine your idea of being a neighbor. He's saying, oh, who is your neighbor? Jesus is saying, you need to redefine you being a neighbor. Like being a neighbor, go and do it. Okay, so it's like being a neighbor is an active thing. It's not I'm conveniently located, I'm adjacent to you. Okay? And what does it take to be a neighbor? Right? The one who showed mercy, the one who showed compassion. Not a bunch of rules or ritual cleanliness. Who showed compassion. Okay? And many of you said somebody has stopped for you. Have you stopped for other people?
Yes.
Okay, I realize we might be uncomfortable doing that sometimes, and there are some things, right? But the whole point is the Samaritan is showing you how to be a neighbor. And for us, it would be the fundamentalist, the terrorist, I think all of us are old enough. The communist is the one who's showing how to be an, what? Really? Okay, do you see how Jesus is turning things around? Okay, and yes, I realize we have this tradition, that's a good one, right? That we need to expand our view of who is our neighbor. But Jesus is saying, the point is you. Okay, you be a neighbor, right? Love your neighbor. That's that love and compassion. You're making people into your neighbor. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Instead of who is your neighbor, how to be a neighbor
Yeah.
to everyone.
Well,
Or anyone.
when the opportunities arise.
So that is always my question as a Baptist. How far do we expand our neighbors? Is it just people that I come in contact